What does justice look like when there are no courts, no sheriffs, and no second chances, before the Wild West earned its name, before the tin star glittered under desert suns? There were lawmen in the shadows of the Ohio River Valley, the dense woods of Indiana, and the blood-soaked trails of Kentucky. These were the earliest guardians of the American frontier, men who didn't wear badges to be respected. They earned respect through fear, grit, and justice carved into bone. This is the story of three such men: Moses Stegall, Edward Bonney, and William Pinkerton. Lawmen of the Midwest. Moses Stegall, justice carved in vengeance, 1799, Kentucky. The turn of the 19th century was a violent and uncertain time in Kentucky. Statehood had come just 7 years earlier in 1792. The land was still raw, thick forests, dangerous roads, and a constant threat from highwaymen, river pirates, and outlaws. Moses Stegall was a frontiersman and early settler trying to make a life for his family in a region still in the process of becoming civilized. Like many in his time, he had little protection beyond what he could enforce himself. Among the worst threats were the Harp brothers, Makaja Big Harp and Wiley Little Harp. Between 1797 and 1799, the Harps terrorized Kentucky and Tennessee, killing men, women, and even children with unmatched cruelty. They're often referred to as America's first documented serial killers. In August 1799, while fleeing from law enforcement, the Harps took refuge at the Steagall cabin. The details of what happened next are chilling. One night, enraged by the crying of Steagall's infant son, Big Harp took the child and slit its throat. When Steagall's wife protested, she too was murdered. Their bodies were left for Steagall to discover upon returning home. Grief-stricken and seething with rage, Moses Stegall swore revenge. He quickly organized a posse and pursued the Harps into the dense wilderness along the Green River. After days of tracking, the men finally caught up with the fugitives near present-day Henderson. Big Harp was shot by one of the pursuers, possibly John Liper, but he didn't die immediately. As Harp lay dying, Steagall approached and, with brutal finality, cut off the outlaw's head. He mounted it on a stake at a crossroads, a warning to others. That spot would forever be known as Harp's Head. This was not courtroom justice. This was frontier justice. Edward Bonney. The Spy Who Rode Alone, 1845. Fast forward to the 1840s, when criminal gangs in the Midwest had grown more organized. The banditti of the prairie, a secretive network of counterfeiters, horse thieves, and murderers, operated throughout Illinois, Indiana, and Iowa. Edward Bonney was born around 1807 in Jefferson County, New York, and moved west as many Americans did, settling in Iowa. He became a bounty hunter, private investigator, and part-time lawman. Known for his resourcefulness, Bonney was unafraid to go undercover. On July 4, 1845, Colonel George Davenport, a prominent figure in the Quad Cities region, was found murdered in his home on Rock Island. The banditti had beaten and tortured him in search of money, then left him to die. The public was outraged, and local law enforcement struggled to make headway. Bonney volunteered for a task few dared. He would infiltrate the gang. Disguised as a criminal for hire, Bonney posed as a counterfeiter and began earning the gang's trust. He traveled with them, observed their methods, and quietly collected names, locations, and confessions. The operation was dangerous. One slip and Bonney could have joined the long list of the gang's victims. But his gamble paid off. He identified key conspirators in Davenport's murder, leading to multiple arrests. Eventually, several banditti members were tried and hanged. Bonney recounted his investigation in the book The Banditti of the Prairies, 1850, which became one of the earliest published true crime narratives in the U.S. His story proved that the frontier didn't just belong to gunslingers, it also belonged to men of cunning and resolve. William Pinkerton and the Reno Gang, Indiana's Reckoning, 1868. By the end of the Civil War, new dangers had emerged on the American frontier, this time not from the wilds, but from organized crime. The Reno Gang emerged during Reconstruction, exploiting post-war chaos and weak infrastructure. Railroads became prime targets, and their crimes helped push for tougher federal enforcement and influenced how train security and detective work evolved in the U.S. Their story represents a turning point, when justice was still up for grabs and the people took it into their own hands. The Reno Gang, operating out of Jackson County, Indiana. The Reno brothers, Frank, John, Simeon, and William, along with a crew of trusted thugs, carried out what is believed to be the first peacetime train robbery in U.S. history on October 6, 1866, stealing over $10,000 from an Ohio and Mississippi Railway express car in Jackson County. Their boldness escalated, and they continued a spree of bank and train robberies across the Midwest, from Indiana to Iowa and Missouri. Lawmen were either outgunned, corrupted, or overwhelmed. Frustration mounted, and the Pinkerton National Detective Agency, led by William Pinkerton, was hired to track them down. William Pinkerton, the son of legendary detective Allan Pinkerton, took a hands-on role in leading investigations against the Reno Gang. Under his direction, Pinkerton agents conducted surveillance, followed leads across state lines, and collaborated with local authorities to bring the gang to justice. Several members were arrested through their efforts, including Frank Reno and key associates. But the public had lost all faith in legal justice. In 1868, vigilante justice took over. Citizens from Seymour and neighboring towns formed secret vigilante groups, calling themselves the Jackson County Vigilance Committee. When several Reno Gang members were captured and jailed in New Albany, Indiana, the vigilantes stormed the jail on multiple occasions. On July 10th and July 24th, 1868, they lynched 10 gang members, including Frank and Simeon Reno. The brutal and extrajudicial hanging sent a chilling message across the region. The days of unchecked outlawry in Indiana were over. While Pinkerton agents under William Pinkerton played a critical role in the investigation and arrests, the final justice came from the hands of the people, reflecting the grim reality of law enforcement on the frontier. Moses Stegall didn't need a badge to deliver justice. Edward Bonney didn't need backup to take down a criminal empire. And in every corner of the Midwest, there were others like them, men who risked everything to bring law to the lawless. They weren't perfect, they weren't always right. But these men stepped into the darkness when others hid from it. In the wilds of Kentucky, the hills of Indiana, and the dusty plains beyond, they stood, and the frontier stood with them. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what comes next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.